Elizabeth Eyed. This story is called If I Ran for President by Catherine Stier. So I'm going to show you the front of this book. Okay, so there's the front of this book. And I want you to think, why do you think the author, Catherine Stier, wrote this book? So why would she have written this book? Basically, what's the purpose of this book? Is it to entertain you? So entertaining could be making you laugh, giving you some enjoyment, making you cry. Is it informing you? So giving you information about a topic, maybe giving you information about the president. Okay. Or is it to persuade you? Maybe when you get older and you grow up, you might be persuaded now after reading this text to become the President of the United States. So there is one type of different way that you could have an author's purpose. So persuading, entertaining, or informing. All right, so looking at this cover again, when you look at the cover of the book, what do you think about more so the book will be about? And how do you know, just based off of that cover, that the book will be about a certain topic? What can you see there? Maybe you're looking at the title of it. All right. So what's really cool about this book is it shows you some of the characters. So I'm going to bring it closer so you can see it, okay? So there are some characters right there. So in our story, we have Ben, who was on the front cover. We have Claire. We have Ellie, Marco, Sam, and Ashley. So those are our characters that we have in this story. Another really great and important feature is that we have a story kind of before the story that I'm going to read to you, and this is going to give you some background knowledge of this text, okay? So it says, it's fun to imagine running for the highest office in the land, that's the president, and maybe becoming president of the United States of America. After all, the president is famous, makes lots of important decisions, and lives in a really cool mansion, the White House. There are rules written in our Constitution about who can be president. A person must be 35 years old, so a kid really couldn't be president. Also, a person running for president must be a citizen who was born here in the United States, so they couldn't have been born in any other country. And they have to have at least lived here for 14 years. So you can become a citizen of the United States, but you had to live here for at least 14 years. That's it. You can be a president if you are a man or a woman. We haven't had a woman president yet, but one day we will. You can be president whether your parents were born in the United States or anywhere else in the world. When citizens vote in November every 4 years, which we will have an election this November 2020, they're not voting directly for president and vice president, even though they mark their candidates' names on the ballot. That's a piece of paper, or sometimes it's electronically and you just mark it and it's put in. They are voting for a group of people from their state called electors. In December, the electors cast their state's official votes, called electoral votes, for president and vice president. The formal announcement of the winners is not until January, but usually it's clear on election night in November who has won. So a lot of times in November, your parents will be watching the news and they'll be seeing who is in the lead for our president. Each elector votes for the president who has won the people's vote, called the popular vote, in his or her state. Each state has a set number of electors, equal to the number of its senators and representatives in Congress. Although there are 538 electors, including 3 from Washington, D.C., although it is not a state, it's a very important place. When a candidate has received 270 electoral votes, he or she has won the presidential or vice presidential election. This complicated system, which is called the Electoral College, is outlined in the Constitution, which is a really long document. Running for president is surely exhausting, but exciting time for a candidate. And who knows, perhaps someday you will toss your hat in the ring to run for President of the United States of America. So that's just a little bit of background knowledge on what it takes to be a president and how old you have to be. That you have to be a U.S. citizen, living here for at least 14 years. And then it talks about kind of the background of voting day. All right, so let's read about this president. And I bet you it's going to be Ben, because that's what I see on the posters. It would be great to run for president of the United States. If I ran for president, I'd hope the people of the United States would choose me for a very important job, the job of leading our country. And I'd hope to follow in the footsteps of past presidents such as George Washington, our first president, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. Now, since we are from the great state of Illinois, we know that Abraham Lincoln, we are known as the Lincoln State. Abraham Lincoln is from Illinois, and he was our 16th president. Does anybody happen to know where this place is that these kids are looking at with these very important 4 presidents? If you said Mount Rushmore, you are correct. You can actually go visit there. I'd have to think carefully about my decision to run for president. I would want to know how my family felt about it too, because it takes a really big toll on your family when you run for president. Then I'd ask myself, am I the best person for the job? Am I ready to work very, very, very hard for my country? Do lots of people believe in me? And will they help me run for office? That's a lot of things to think about. He's even thinking about his dog there. If I could answer yes to all those questions, then I'd declare my candidacy. That means I'd announce I was interested in the job of President of the United States. So talk to someone next to you, maybe a family member, and tell them, who do you think the President of the United States is right now? And if you know the answer to that question, is that same president deciding to run for president in 2020? So are they wanting to be the president again? And presidents can only be presidents for 8 years total. That's 2 elections time, because every time you are a president, you are our president for 4 years. And we know our double stacks of 4 and 4 makes 8, and that's the longest you can be president right now. If I ran for president, I'd run a campaign to let voters learn about me. People who thought I would be a good president would donate money or their time to help. I'd hire people to work on my campaign too. So you have lots of people helping you and working for you. And those are the people that believe in you and believe in what you feel and what you say as when you're going to be the president and how you kind of want to run the United States. Campaigns can make a candidate famous. Soon my name or face would appear on signs, buttons, bumper stickers, that's the back of your car, those stickers you can put on there, and t-shirts. I'd even star in television commercials. So you would be quite famous if you were president of the United States, or even if you were running for president, because you are going to be on all of those different types of things. If I ran for president, I'd work with my political party. That's a group of people who share the same beliefs about how the country should be governed. They support candidates who uphold these ideas. The 2 major parties are the Democratic Party. Their symbol is a donkey, if you've ever seen that before, and the Republican Party. Their symbol is an elephant. There are other parties too called the third parties. But people beside me would want to be president. So not just one person's running. There's a Democrat, there's a Republican, there's a third party, there might even be a lot of other people. The Republican and Democratic parties must choose whom they'll support in the election. In some states like Iowa, the parties each hold meetings called caucuses, where members pick their favorite candidate. In most states, party members hold an election called a primary, and we kind of had some of those before. Caucuses and primaries show which candidates are popular, so who has the most votes, who would be the best leader, either Republican or Democrat, with voters, and who might have the best chance of being elected president. They don't want to choose someone who doesn't have a good chance to be our president. The first primary is held in New Hampshire in the winter before the presidential election. So this has already happened now. That would have happened in 2019 wintertime. I'd be sure to visit there, but I'd have to bundle up because of course it's wintertime, and what's the weather going to be like there? In the summer before elections, so that's coming up really soon after we're all done with school, that'll be in the summer, the political parties announce their candidate for president. So there's still a lot of people, you might see advertisements on your TV commercials, and those are for different candidates because they still haven't picked a particular Republican or Democrat or third party. So there's lots of little different people that are running. So they're trying to get those popular votes. The major parties make this announcement at meetings called conventions. Each state sends delegates to the convention. Delegates vote for the candidate who was most popular in the state. A convention looks like a big celebration full of cheering and chanting, balloons, and confetti. Millions of Americans watch the excitement on TV. So if you're not able to go to this, which is thousands of people, you would be able to watch it on TV. But by the time of the convention, everyone usually knows which candidate will be chosen. But the delegates still have to vote. That's very important. If my party chose me to run for president, I'd make a speech to get everyone excited about helping me win. I'd tell the American people about my platform, which is my plans and my ideas for running our country. My running mate would make a speech too. That's the person who would be my vice president if I became the president. So the vice president's kind of that right-handed person. So they're the person who's going to help out our president. Before I turn the page, I want you to think about, why do people run to be our president? Why would they want to run and be the president when it's so much hard work? So why do you think they would want to run for president? They have a lot of work ahead of them. I'm going to turn it here. If I ran for president, I'd be invited to debate with other presidential candidates and see who's the person that can kind of speak the best about their topics. A person called a moderator would ask us questions. People across the country would listen carefully to our answers. So here is your moderator right here. That's that person. And these are the people who are talking, those three different candidates. And they each get a turn to talk for a certain amount of time. Reporters would ask me questions too about my life, my family, even my kitten Sassy. They'd print old photographs of me in newspapers and magazines, like the snapshots of me in my superhero costume or my baby picture when I still wore my diapers. So there they are. He is with his little cat and his mom and dad, and in the newspaper superhero costume, and when he was a baby. So they kind of tell your whole history and your whole entire life, not just from when you wanted to become the president, from the beginning of your life to now. If I ran for president, I would travel the country to meet lots of people. I'd have my own campaign bus or airplane to take me from place to place. So you kind of have to have a lot of money or know someone who has a lot of money because they have to transport you from place to place. I'd have my own campaign bus, so they'd have to travel in their own airplane. That takes a lot of time away from their families too. So think about how hard this job must be. Inside, there'd be comfy seats, perfect for checking out the news, writing speeches, and thinking about how to solve the nation's problems. I take naps too. I need the extra rest. So one reason they have to travel and talk to all these different people is what? So think about it, share it. So think, pair, share. Think, pair up with someone and share. Why do you think that they would have to travel to all these different places to talk with all these different people if they're running for the president of the United States? I'd work hard and be very busy. All in 1 week, I might share cereal with kindergartners in California, crunch corn with farmers in Kansas. That's our 2 different states. And have dinner in Delaware, where I'd order the blue plate special with apple pie, yum, and a large strawberry milkshake. After all that food, I might not feel too well. That's kind of a lot of sweets, isn't it? Still, I'd have to smile and talk with people and tell them who I am and how I met them. Presidential candidates make lots of speeches, shake hands, and cuddle babies. So they're pretty important people. And because they're going to those different states, they have to try all the things that the different states have to offer, because that's only being polite and respectful. Finally, in November, which is election day, that has arrived. If I ran for president, I'd be nervous and excited. Nervous because they don't know if they'd be elected, and excited because they might be elected. So it's kind of a toss-up in their emotions. So this shows the whole United States. On election day, millions of voters from across the country go to their polling places to cast their ballots. That's another way to say they vote. So here's the whole entire United States. We are made up of 50 states, and we all have different electoral votes that go towards the president. So everybody in every state who's over the age of 18 and is a United States citizen can go and vote. And if they can't make it there, sometimes there's ballots where they can mail them to your house, and you can cast your ballots and then mail it back in for the president. In our country, people vote in private. That means nobody needs to know your answer. And even if somebody said, hey, who'd you vote for? You don't have to tell them. It's a secret. No one but you knows how you voted. But I know I'd choose my favorite candidate. Me, of course. Once the voting is finished, officials count up the ballots. Then comes the announcement on television, like we talked about. Radio, in the newspapers, and on the internet. People everywhere find out who will be the next president of the United States. People sometimes stay up really late at night to figure out who the president's going to be. I'd stay up late and keep my fingers crossed because, of course, they are running for president. If I ran for president and lost, the people who worked so hard on my campaign would be disappointed. I'd be disappointed too. Still, I'd be proud that I had taken part in a free and fair election. I'd make a telephone call to offer my best wishes and my support to the winner, our next president. But if I won, wow, that just shows how kind and respectful that person is being when they did not win, but they still wanted to call the other candidate and say congratulations. On January 20th, I'd say the words of the oath of the office and be sworn in as president. On that day, my inauguration day, there'd be a parade and a fancy ball. A fancy ball is like a fancy dance and dinner where lots of famous people come, lots of really high up people in the world. Then I'd move into the White House in Washington, D.C. to begin my 4-year term as the President of the United States. And what would I do when I became president? Well, that's another story. So after reading this text, does this book make you wonder anything about being elected for president? Is there any additional questions you have? Does it make you want to ever be the president? I wonder who's going to be our candidates come November, and I wonder who's going to be our president come January 20th. So we will have to look really closely, and maybe even our school would cast a ballot to see who our next president would be if we were able to vote. Now at Elizabeth Ide, we are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds. Do you think that we can vote? No, you have to be 18 years or older. Even if you were born here in the United States, you still need to be able to cast your vote. So your teachers would be able to vote, and your parents, but unfortunately, you would not be able to. All right, so think about those presidents. Think about what you would do if you were president. What would you do to change our country? How would you make it better? What are some different things that you would love to see go on in our country, okay? So that's just something to think about on this Sunday. Bye, friends.